Seeing that today is Remembrance Day, I wanted to share a story about one of my personal heroes, and really a hero, an objective hero, objective war hero, someone who sacrificed to defend his country, and that's my grandpa. My grandpa was born on a farm in Alberta, and near Wetaskiwin, Alberta. And when the war broke out, he decided that he was going to join up, and so he joined the Air Force with his brothers and his dad, and served as best he could there until it was discovered that he was 16 years old. And during that time, if you were 16 or younger than 16, you weren't allowed to be in the Air Force, and so they booted him out. And he still wanted to serve his country, so instead of serving in the Air Force, he decided that he was going to serve in the Navy, which was quite an adventure for a farm boy who had really never left the farm that much, to go all the way across to the eastern seaboard to Halifax and to join the Navy. And so he did that, and was assigned to a frigate. Now, a frigate is basically a submarine hunter. That was what it was designed to do. It was designed to protect the transport ships that were heading out to the Western theater, or the European theater of the war, and they were going to take stuff and troops and support to Europe, to England. And so they would patrol the St. Lawrence Seaway, because at that point the Germans were so gutsy that they would actually come into Canadian waters, way into Canadian waters, and blow up ships right there in the St. Lawrence Seaway. And so it was actually pretty remarkable. There was reports of German sailors from the U-boats getting on rafts, paddling into Halifax, and actually spending, an evening, in the bars and whatnot, in the nightlife, and then going back to their boats, their U-boats, and blowing up ships the next day. And so pretty gutsy, pretty remarkable that they did that. But that's the way it was. And my grandpa had some pretty harrowing experiences. He was assigned to the powder magazine. Basically, the magazine was where they keep all the shells and whatnot, the charges and whatnot that they would use to destroy the U-boats. And that's where he was assigned. And so one day they're out in the St. Lawrence Seaway, and a U-boat fires a torpedo at their ship. And apparently it was a very well-placed shot, and it literally would have split the U-boat in two, would have blown it up, and it would have killed my granddad. But it didn't. And the only thing that saved them was a log that was just under the surface, a large log that was just under the surface. And instead of hitting the boat, they ended up hitting that hollow log and blowing it to bits. And everybody then knew that the U-boat was there, and they ended up destroying it. They sent out depth charges and fired at it and destroyed it. And the whole experience really shook up my granddad. He realized that he had really just come close to death, and he began to think about his eternal destiny, where he was going to go when he died. And just like all of us, he hadn't lived a perfect life. There had been some things that weighed heavy on his conscience, and he knew that if he stood before God, that he was going to have to give an account for those things, and didn't want to give a bad report and end up going to hell. And so he told the Lord, he said, "Lord, if you allow me to survive this war, I will find you. I promise I will give my life to you." And he ended up surviving the war, survived all 6 years of the war. And true to his word, after they were released and were able to go home, he went and found his uncle. His uncle was a Baptist preacher, and I believe an itinerant preacher that would go around and just an evangelist, and it would go around and preach. And so he found him, and he said, you got to show me how I can know for sure that my sins are forgiven and I'm on my way to heaven. I made a vow to God, and his uncle was more than happy to open up the Bible and share the gospel with him. And that day, my grandpa ended up turning and trusting Jesus Christ as Savior. And I am so thankful that he did. It really set in motion a turn of events that allowed him to meet my grandma in Bible school. And, honestly, that choice to trust Christ really just changed like, I literally would not be here today, had he not made that choice. But just an incredible story. So my grandpa he's really a hero to me. He's been in heaven for a couple years, but I so respect him. He was one of the most generous people that I know. Just freely give to people, freely give to us, freely give to our family. He was just a giver. He had a gift for that. He was hardworking. He ended up actually building several houses, and he was a cribber. He would make foundations. He would do concrete work, and he literally built a house out of the lumber that was saved from the cribbing frames, which is remarkable, and just was a really, really solid guy. And I so appreciate him. I miss him, and it'll be wonderful to be able to see him someday in glory. That generation I really look up to. They were willing to. They knew what they believed in, and they were willing to give their lives for a cause that they believed in. And because of my grandpa's effort and so many others, we're living in a free country today. Anyway, I just wanted to get on here and share that story with you, and share the story of one of the people who is one of the persons who is a true hero to me.